Summer, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here.
Really happy to be here, y'all, and watch that with you. It's
It's
amazing.
so cool. We got Eli on the video, Proof's head of art, and I know he's very excited to jump into a conversation and chat about this collection. Well, I guess we can all chat about it, but Eli, I know you have some great questions planned.
For sure. So welcome, Summer. This is going to be a lot of fun. When I think about this upcoming release on December 5th, I go back to a conversation you and I had maybe 2 months ago. And one of the questions I asked you, I think, in a long, meandering, hour-long conversation was, who are you? And that kicked off a whole bunch of tangents and side threads that ultimately, I think, accrued into this release. But the place I want to start is tell us about the Midwest and how moving back there from California really catalyzed this chapter of your life.
Yeah, so I moved to North Orange County when I was 12 years old, and then spent the next 10 years in Orange County, just in the hustle and bustle, Orange County in LA. And it wasn't until I moved back to Illinois, my family moved back, and I was really forced to be in quietness with myself. First of all, I didn't know anybody, and that was a huge part of the process of being alone. But really, it was also spending vast amounts of time in the Midwestern landscape, whether it be in the prairie or the forest, or in abandoned houses or buildings, and just exploring this space with the eyes of a child. And then really, really getting to know my child self and kind of confronting her for the first time in 10 years. And understanding who I was from the perspective of meeting that child Summer and playing with her, interacting with her, getting to know her. And that's an ongoing process. I think something that I'll probably be doing for the rest of my life, as many of us will. But the Midwest just offered that landscape for me to expand and have the space to start building these worlds, discovering myself, but then also creating, and creating these worlds that I kind of had been imagining for a very long time.
So I love how you describe that, and you emphasize the impact that environment had on your internal world. But of course, now it's a primary character in your work and in your output in this external world or worlds that you're creating. Talk about the way in which you bring that into your work, and it's this consistent theme across this collection, but also some of your prior work.
Yeah. As a kid, I would spend a lot of time outside. And for then my high school and college years, I think I was pretty excluded or didn't have a lot of access to outdoor spaces alone. And so when I moved back to Illinois and started to just be able to experience outside by myself, it was kind of like, okay, everything that I'm imagining in my mind is able to kind of spill out into this space because I have permission. I'm not worried about anybody else in the area. And that led to a lot of self-portraiture. A lot of my early work is me having these almost theatrical or dance-like moments with myself and capturing it, being able to bring my body into a space and really express myself through where I place myself and interacting with various different trees or natural spaces, with abandoned buildings. That was a big expression in my early work. And then it kind of snowballed into bringing in other people, other characters, and just kind of expanding this inner world and bringing it into the real worlds.
Let's talk about this collection a little bit, Summer. So Mid-American Fever Dream. This is a collection that I think you began at least thinking about in 2021. So 2+ years of ideation and work. Talk about the process of bringing this to life, but then also tell a little bit of that story of Mid-American Fever Dream, and then afterwards we can maybe touch on some of the mechanics.
Sure. So we've talked about before that I have a background. I studied in filmmaking. I studied filmmaking in college. So I've always been very, very drawn to story. And moving back to the Midwest, I had the camera in my hands, was able to kind of start exploring story with myself or close friends as characters. But really, at the core of it all was a desire to become very fluent in my visual language and then to eventually be able to tell a more cohesive story with distinct characters. And so Mid-American Fever Dream was a story that I had been very much so thinking about throughout the process of developing this visual language. And while I was exploring these Midwestern landscapes, and also while I was developing my worldview while living in the post-industrial Midwest. You know, there's like a story that is so clearly present in the natural spaces and the abandoned architecture that are living amongst each other. And that was very, very intriguing for me. And kind of the first character in the story is the post-industrial Midwest itself. And that's what kind of snowballed. Okay, and then there's these characters that are living in this space, and how does this space affect who they are, and how can they transform in this space when they feel tethered to it.
Mm-hmm. And in both the image that we were just looking at, which is the one of one from this first wave of the collection, but then also in many of your other works, there's this emphasis, at least through my eyes, on ritual. Can you talk about the way that rituals show up in your work?
Sure. There's so much to be said about ritual that it's sometimes hard for me to process it concisely. But for wave one, this ritual for this character who's named Judith is really all about this sort of last-ditch effort to really somatically transform, and to call upon the elements, the seasons, the tangible things in life that we hold a lot of power to, and bringing them into a space and offering yourself in that space fully to bring about some sort of power and change. And ritual in general, I mean, I love the video that we played right before this discussion started, because the process of taking a long exposure photograph is so ritualistic. I mean, as a director of this collection, of the piece, I'm creating a ritualistic space for these actors to be able to fully transform into the characters that they're portraying. And having Maureen, who plays Judith, reflect on that process unprompted and be able to describe exactly what I was trying to somatically conjure out of this experience is really, really exciting for me, because, you know, the lines between art and reality blur all the time. And I think that the act of creating art is also ritual. Definitely for me, there's something transformative that happens when you are able to summon a moment out of thin air by bringing the right pieces together, the right props, characters, spaces. There's a big amount of magic that can happen. And of course, the experience of seeing the art hopefully is also somewhat transformative for the viewer.
It absolutely is. Sorry, I have to just hop in because I think there's something just incredibly powerful about your work. I think you can just sort of tell, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you studied filmmaking in school, because I think you can kind of tell the extra level of effort every single frame that that really kind of gets put into the work. You can really kind of tell. And we released these videos, but you had a lot to do with them. You provided a lot of that content for us, and you had a real vision for even the videos that we're doing for this. So I think it's really cool. I'm reading the chat, and we have a lot of people who we have Mind Rash in the chat who is also from the Midwest, really feels that connection. Really also pointed out the similarities between you and Die with the most likes there on that sort of commentary on the Midwest. I think that's really, really cool. And Mind Rash is also saying that he sees the jawbone a lot. That seems like a recurring element. So maybe you want to talk about what that is in your work.
Yeah, great question with the jawbone. There's a lot of recurring themes in my work that I've been really inspired by since moving to the Midwest. The jawbone was a symbol that was featured in one of my first ever creative photography projects that I don't have on the internet anymore because it's too early. But it was there. So it's this kind of recurring image that I love playing with. So there's a lot of symbology in wave 1 of Mid-American Fever Dream. Numerology 44, obviously with the dice, but the 4 is going to come back a lot in the collection. There's the 4 cardinal directions, and there's the 4 elements. And as I'm sure a lot of people from Proof know, I love playing with the elements, and the jawbone is a representation of the North. North is the representation, or associated with Earth element. And Earth element is really the kind of basis of transformation that happens throughout the collection. So it's a grounding energy, and I don't want to say too much because there's kind of more to come with the jawbone throughout the rest of the collection. But great detail that you noticed there.
Love that.
Yeah.
I think, if this is your second time working with us, first time you worked with us was for Diamond Exhibition for the Hands of Umbra collection, and there is a jawbone. I have Flame. Mm-hmm. There is a jawbone one, and now I feel like I have to go grab that one now that I know that it is so important. So I feel like I have to go grab one now. Very cool.
Summer, just as we wrap up here, let's talk. We mentioned these different waves. Let's talk about, sort of at a high level at least, the way that this collection and this story will unfold across those waves. So on December 5th, there's wave 1, which is comprised of a 1 of 1, and then this unique edition, which will evolve with the story. Just talk about making this collection sort of episodic, and the way that, without giving too much away, it will unfold over those 4 waves.
Yeah, really excited to be exploring telling the story over a period of time, because I feel like it's really offering a more immersive experience where people can understand the narrative on a deeper level than just releasing everything all at once, and get a chance to really simmer in the content and feel the flow of the story. So each wave is kind of offering a sort of story beat. So if wave 1 is the inciting incident, I think of wave 2 as the creating the normal world where you get to meet the other characters and get a window into what their normal world might look like. And really dive into how they correspond to the 4 elements and 4 directions, and what Judith is summoning in that first piece. And then wave 3 and wave 4, the story unfolds further, and you are able to kind of go through that process that the characters are also going through in the collection itself.
One question I had there is when you look at the waves, you see December, January, and then there's a skipped month.
Yeah, so each wave is 44 days apart.
Okay,
So there's a little numerology play there.
Gotcha. I was like, why did you skip February?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah.
Oh no, that was it. I was like, is there some secret here I need to figure out? Like something that's going on behind the scenes?
I should have forced you to figure it out and not giving you the answer.
Yeah, seriously.
That would have been way more fun.
This is incredibly exciting, Summer. Similar to Kevin, you've been one of my favorite artists for a long time, and to be able to partner with you to help tell this story in a way that feels deeply authentic for you is really an honor. Cannot wait. Wave 1 starts next week on December 5th, and I think it's fair to say the story begins December 5th and will unfold every 44 days, as you said, until we hit Wave 4. Summer, such an honor. I wish I was there in person. The 4 of you guys are hanging out in LA. I'm stuck here in cold Canada, but such an honor to have you on, and really looking forward to next week.
So excited, y'all. Thanks so much.